Today, we are talking about how to invest for beginners. So let's say you want to start investing. You may have some money saved, but it's probably not enough to buy a house. You may think you should invest this in something after hearing on the news that investing in Tesla 10 years ago would have made you a millionaire by now, or something similar. However, if you're new to the game, this whole investing thing can be confusing. Seem like a really complicated black box, such as how do you even buy a stock? What even is a stock? Do you just go to Tesla.com and buy some Tesla? Like, how does it work? And if you try to look into this, you get all these acronyms being thrown around, such as Roth IRAs and 400 and ONEX in America, and on top of that there is the anxiety that we all have that I know. My money, so it might have everything. This is the definitive guide on how to begin investing. It is the video I wish I would have had 5 years ago, when I first started investing in stocks and shares. We're going to cover this by thinking about investing in 10 different bite-sized steps. The first step is to completely disregard investing and simply consider what will happen to my money over time by default. If you studied economics, you will know that this is what happens to money over time by default. You should be aware that over time, your money loses value due to a phenomenon called inflation. Inflation is typically around the 2% mark, which means that every year, things cost about 2% more than they did the year before. For instance, in America, in 1970, a cup of coffee cost 25 cents, but in 2019, the same cup of coffee cost 1.59. Now, let's say you have £1,000 in your account. If you take $1,000 today and put it under your mattress for the next 10 years without touching it, in 10 years, your $1,000 will not be worth $1,000 because everything will have increased by about 2% annually, depreciating the value of your money. If you do this, you will lose money over time, which is obviously bad even if you put your $1,000 in a savings account. Savings account, like these days, a savings accounts will give you like 0.2% interest. Means your money goes up by 0.2% every year, but because inflation is up by 2%, the percentage, you are still losing money over time, and again, this is not good, okay? So that begs to the question, which is key point number 2, which is how do we stop our money from losing value over time? And the answer is that if we had a hypothetical savings account that was, let's say, 0.2% interest. Inflation means that everything increases in price by 2.5, but since our savings account balance also increases by 2.5 each year, we are technically not losing money over time. If you have a problem with the word interest, don't worry, stick with it for now. Investment is not the same as interest, but we'll get to that later. The point is that an interest rate of 2.5 would roughly match the rate of inflation. This brings us to question number 3, which is how do we actually make money? Let's go back to our hypothetical savings account. If hypothetically we could have a savings account that was giving us a 10 interest rate, this would never happen because that's just way too high. But hypothetically, if it did, that means that every year, we would earn 10% of the value of the money in our savings accounts. For instance, if I were to deposit £100 in a savings account today, by the end of the next year, it would be worth 110, and by the end of the year after, it would be 121 because it is 10% of the 110, and by the end of the year, it would be 130 something. This quickly compounded, so that after 10 years, my £100 would have grown to £259. And if we account £206 after 10 years, this is a good one. It really doesn't seem like it would do that because 10 feels like a small amount of money. But if you extrapolate 10 over 10 years, you actually double your money, which is pretty awesome. We had more than doubled our money by simply depositing it in this hypothetical 10 interest savings account. Unfortunately, these fictitious 10 savings accounts don't actually exist because the cost is too exorbitant and the reality isn't all that pleasant. The answer to point number 4 is that an investment is something that puts money in your pocket. Currently, most savings accounts in the UK, and I assume around the rest of the world, offer less than a 1% savings rate, which means you're actually still losing money over time. However, we do have other options to try and get us to this magical nirvana of, like, this 10 saving thingy, and that is where investments come in. For instance, if you spend £100,000 on a home and decide to rent it out to tenants, there are 2 ways you can profit from the investment. The first is by charging the tenants rent. For example, if you charge them £830 per month, that translates to £10,000 annually, you will earn £10,000 in rental income each year, or $10,000. It's a pretty good deal, but secondly, it's an investment because the value of the house itself would probably increase over time in general, because there is a trend in most developed countries where house prices tend to rise. This means that in 10 years you'll have paid off the £100,000 that you put in, because you're making £10,000 a year, and beyond that, every year you're just making £10,000 in pure profit. So that's pretty good in the long run. Your home will likely be worth more than £100,000 in 10 years. In the UK historically, some claim that house prices double every 10 years, so your home may be worth close to £200,000. As a result, you profited from the rental income as well as capital gains, which is what we call it when an asset increases in value over time, but the cost of ownership remains the same. The issue is that purchasing a home is a little annoying because you need to have quite a large sum of money for a down payment, obtain a mortgage, obtain the house itself, arrange for rental management, rent it out to people, and all that kind of stuff. If only there were a way to invest without needing a large sum of money to begin with and without having to put that much effort into managing the asset as well. Which brings us to our next point. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Buying shares is probably as close as we're ever going to get to this magical savings account that just returns some amount of money each year. So point number 5 is what are shares and how they work. I own this house, but I don't consider it an investment, so I'll talk about that in a different video. Thanks for watching our video. Please like and subscribe to our channel to get more amazing and informative videos. Have a nice day.